Hey, everybody. Happy Thursday to you as Packers are getting ready to take on the Broncos. Trying this whole, live Q&A thing again. Obviously, we've done this a bunch before, but yesterday hopped on here and we had some massive connection problems. Hopefully, it's better today. I unplugged everything, plugged it all back in, reset all the stuff. Here's hoping for the best, hoping that it works out better today than it did yesterday. But I thought today was a good chance to hop on. I don't know how brief this will be, but kind of wanted to try the system again, as well as hop on here and answer any questions that there may be in the midweek point. As well as I can offer you the Packers' latest injury update that got released today. For the most part, good news, but the most notable thing on here, not so much. Once again, every single member of the Packers 53-man squad was practicing today with the exception of Devondre Campbell. But on the bad side, Jaire Alexander, who was off of the injury report yesterday, finds himself back on the injury report today with that back injury. Apparently, he still was able to get in some kind of limited practice, so that's something. But as we all know, especially if you're over the age of 30, I'm sure, back injuries have a tendency of nagging. They don't go away easily. And so Jaire finds himself back on the injury report today, only able to log a limited practice. When LaFleur was asked about it in the press conference, he didn't exactly make it sound like it was planned that Jaire just did a limited practice today. So something certainly to keep an eye on, especially heading into a game against Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton. So in terms of the full injury report, as I mentioned, Devondre Campbell, he did not practice today. The likelihood of him playing on Sunday, not looking great. As for everybody else, there's still hope. But Jaire, Zane Anderson, Elton Jenkins, Aaron Jones, Darnell Savage, Eric Stokes, who's not yet on the 53, they still got to do that, Quay Walker, and Devontae Wyatt all put in limited practices today. So still optimistic for Sunday for every single one of those individuals, but still noteworthy that they're only putting in limited practices thus far. So Dan, I see you're here. Thank you, Dan, for joining us. Everybody out there, if you could please, if you're in a position where you could do so, just drop a quick comment. Let me know if the connection is better today than what we experienced yesterday, especially if you were here yesterday for the problems we ran into unexpectedly. So just let me know if everything's actually working here as we get going. One thing that I wanted to talk about that I really didn't have the opportunity to much yesterday was the Packers signing of running back James Robinson. Former 1,000-yard rusher from Jacksonville has been signed to the Packers practice squad. And as we've seen many of the beat writers put out little videos from practice, he's already there practicing in full, wearing number 24, even as you'd have it. But the thing that I want to stress with James Robinson is there's hope, yes, that this could be a larger role signing, maybe down the road. But for right now, I've saw a lot of, even in some of the memorabilia groups that I'm in, people immediately talking about well, this is A.J. Dillon's replacement. Maybe A.J. Dillon's going to get traded now. But the thing is, in my opinion, I don't see that. James Robinson, this last offseason, bounced around a lot. He still is trying to come back from that Achilles injury that he suffered a couple years ago. But this offseason, he signed a 2-year deal with New England, and then wound up not even making it through training camp with New England, did a stint with the Giants, and he's available to this point in the season for a reason. Keep in mind, too, the Packers even worked him out a little bit of time ago and chose not to sign him at that time. They're only signing him now that Patrick Taylor has moved on to New England. So things to keep in mind here. James Robinson, in my opinion, is very much Patrick Taylor's replacement, and he does have a similar skill set. Good at catching the ball, good in pass pro. He doesn't have the special teams experience that Taylor did, but still similar skills. And that's why I'm viewing this as someone who's a Patrick Taylor replacement, not an A.J. Dillon replacement. Maybe in the future, if that athleticism comes back, James Robinson returns to what he was in Jacksonville, then maybe. But there's a lot to happen there yet. If you're wondering about Emmanuel Wilson, Matt LaFleur did mention in a press conference earlier this week that Emmanuel Wilson is still basically a work in progress, that there is a trust factor there, that they have to trust that he's actually going to adhere to his responsibilities when he's out on the field. Something that Emmanuel Wilson is still very much learning to do. The other thing with Wilson is to this point, really any time that he's gone against a starting defense, both in preseason and the limited opportunities in regular season, his results, I don't want to say lackluster, but they're not like they were when he was going against other third string defenses in preseason. So I know fans are really clamoring to get Emmanuel Wilson on the field, but even LaFleur said this is a work in progress. They really like the potential there. They're going to keep working with him, but it's just not there yet for him to receive a ton of snaps. And of course, this entire running back conversation is kind of moot, considering that it looks like Aaron Jones is actually going to be returning. So, all right, looks like we got one here from Anthony. Hey, Anthony, how you doing? Hello. Hope your day is going good. It is much better than yesterday. Thank you, Anthony. Question, how did you become a Packers fan? What got the fire going? Oh, all right. So for me personally, it's a family trait. It's in our genes. The thing is, like when I was a little kid, my clearest memories is my dad watching football every weekend, Packer games. And I was always like his little buddy sitting on the couch next to dad watching every game. And then I did the same thing with baseball to a certain extent, but I was like the weird little kid that when I had open time, right? Free time, like little kids always do, I would pull out a little notebook and then write down every single Packer player I could remember and just every single one of them. Or going and getting autographs was like the coolest experience in the world, because back then it wasn't about like hawking them and reselling them. It was about actually just trying to meet your favorite players in the back parking lot at Lambeau Field. So for me, it was very much a thing that ingrained in me as a little kid and has just kept on all the way through to now, where it's a very, very large part of my life. So thank you for the question, Anthony. But yeah, it's all genetic for me. And I will say too, while I'm mentioning my dad, there is a time coming up, probably 2 weeks from now, but there's going to be 1 week a year for however long we do this, that I'm not going to do a watch party. I'm going to reserve 1 week a year where I don't do a watch party, but instead I go to my parents' house, sit on the couch and watch a game with my dad, just like we have my entire life. And that one is coming soon. So of course I'll put out notices about that, but it's not this weekend going against Denver. So, hey, speaking of Denver, one topic that I want to put out there that I think it's important for people to have some thought about. I know the conversation right now is they better beat Denver in Denver. They better win by 40. If they don't, it's a concern. And I get it. Denver to this point, even taking out the Miami game where Miami dropped the second highest point total in NFL history on them, like even take that out. Denver's defense has been atrocious throughout the vast majority of the year, and their offense at times has looked broken. I'm going to talk about a ton more on that in tomorrow's game preview. But, okay, here's the thing. Denver, kind of like Green Bay, is a very talented team. Are there holes on the roster? Yeah, absolutely. But their premium talent is incredibly premium. I know the conversation around Russell Wilson is that he's been washed all year long, even dating back to last year. Ever since he got to Denver, he's washed. Well, the thing is, he's still Russell Wilson. They still have Cortland Sutton and Jeudy. In terms of running the ball, they've got their new undrafted free agent, Javonte Williams, Perrine, and an offensive line that isn't absolutely horrendous. Defensively, they still have Patrick Surtain, Kareem Jackson, Justin Simmons. Like, they have top-tier talent. And the thing that I'm a little concerned about with Denver, now I'm not saying Green Bay shouldn't win this game or anything like that. It's just a word of caution. The thing that I just want to say with Denver is please be bearing in mind that there's going to come a week, kind of like Green Bay, where a broken offense just clicks, where everything just makes sense. And all of a sudden, all of the broken plays become not broken. Or the defense that's allowed so much suddenly comes out with their hair on fire and gets aggressive. We're kind of waiting for that with Green Bay, and a top-end talent team at a lot of different positions, not all of them, but a lot of different ones, and an offense that's really been struggling and broken, trying to just click it all together, right? Well, you just hope with teams like this that it's not against you that it actually winds up happening. And so the word of caution with Denver, my goodness, I got lights flickering, we got lightning outside. It's been a week. But the word of caution with Denver is they still have top-end talent at a lot of spots. And if this is the week they click, it could wind up bad for Green Bay. Not saying it will, but it could. And that's something that we as Packer fans need to keep in mind. Anthony, absolutely amazing, bro. Thank you. Thank you, man. Yeah, that is my story. So, couple observations about this injury list that we've got here. I know I talked over who's got the limited practices so far and all that kind of stuff, but a couple names that I want to know. One, Eric Stokes, still not on the 53. So please bear that in mind. If he's going to play this Sunday, which it looks like health-wise he's on track to do, the Packers will need to make a roster move, releasing somebody else, putting somebody on IR, something to that effect to open up a spot for Eric Stokes to get onto the 53. Another one that I wanted to mention, Elgton Jenkins. Elgton Jenkins, to this point in the year, since he came back from his injury, has not been the same guy that he was pre-injury, much like Zach Tom. By the way, note that Zach Tom is not on this injury list. That bodes very well. But Elgton Jenkins has developed this kind of pattern over the last couple of years. Now, Elgton Jenkins, like I mentioned, has not been playing as well as he has pre-injury. And it was the same thing last year when he came back from the ACL. When he had some kind of injury designation, his performance wasn't as solid, wasn't as good as it is after he gets off that injury report. So something to bear in mind, too, when we're evaluating the Packers' offensive line to this point, is it looks like Zach Tom is finally unequivocally ready to go. John Runyon Jr., same story. Josh Meyers is Josh Meyers. Rasheed Walker is Rasheed Walker. But Elgton Jenkins still does not appear to be back to full health. And that will continue to impact the Packers' protection until he actually does get to full health. Yesterday in our condensed weird broken video, I did get a couple questions about if I believe the Packers shuffled the offensive line during the bye week. And the answer is probably not. I know the obvious answer to a lot of people is, well, just kick Zach Tom inside the center, put Yash out at right tackle. That solves the Josh Myers problem, right? The thing with Josh Myers, to this point in the year, is he's continued who he's always been. Incredibly inconsistent play, who plays significantly better when he has quality guard play next to him. And it's difficult to say that over the course of the season thus far, he's had that level of quality guard play next to him that really allows Myers to thrive. So one answer would be switching Tom. Or if Rasheed Walker continues to be unable to run block competently, do we just put Yash in at left tackle, hoping to develop there? And the thing is, in this year of transition for the Packers, I think they continue to trot out Rasheed Walker. I think they really want the chance, week in and week out for the duration of the year, to evaluate whether he is the left tackle of the future. Of course, with David Bakhtiari's status up in the air, Zach Tom looking great at right tackle, they may not want to mess with that. So they want the chance to evaluate Rasheed Walker and see if he can be a long-term starter next to Elgton Jenkins. So even if play is deficient at times, especially in the run game, I don't think they're going to mess with it. I think this offensive line is realistically injury, of course, concerns. But this offensive line, this group of five, is realistically what we're going to see week in and week out for the duration. I think more would have been made of it. More comments had happened if the Packers were going to bench someone, shuffle something around, etc., etc. So that is about all the midweek notes that I have. If you got a question, feel free to comment it in. I'll hang around for a couple more minutes. But tomorrow, be on the lookout for the game preview. Late afternoon, evening, depends when it actually gets published from YouTube. But that'll be the game preview where I look at Packers versus Broncos leading up to the 3:25 game on Sunday. All right, Mick, here we go. If every position stays the same, you are expecting a 6 or 7 win team. So I'm assuming, Mick, you're talking this year and every position staying the same, of course, maintaining starting lineups, right? I would go one notch above. I think it still has the ability with the starters we've seen, keeping lineups the same, to be a 7 to 8 win team. Okay, so I'll go one notch above. And I say that because realistically, right now, they're sitting at 2 and 3, right? And we've seen over the course of the last couple of weeks, could they be worse? Yeah, but it's been pretty bad. And they still hung with the Raiders through the majority of the game. Now, the Lions, yeah, they absolutely get trampled on. And frankly, I would expect much the same on Thanksgiving. I hate to be a Debbie Downer, but like going against the Lions on Thanksgiving, another short week, it's less than ideal from a scheduling purpose. But The thing with the Packers is if this offense can adapt, if the young guys can learn, right? If Matt LaFleur, to put the onus on him, actually starts using guys to their strength and not asking a guy like Luke Musgrave to go block Max Crosby, then there's a chance that things could come together and come together quickly. See, that is the nice thing about this youth. It's like once the light bulb goes on, then it may actually stick, which could lead to a like third quarter of the season run for Green Bay, where they're able to stack, going back to Mike McCarthy's favorite phrase, stack success and pile on a few wins. Now, if that clicking never happens, if they stay broken for all intents and purposes, and 6 might even be a little tough to garner over the duration of the season. But still, I've got faith that things will smooth. It's going to be a lot of kind of gutted out wins, but I still think they could do 7-8. But that's realistically the ballpark that we're looking at for right now. And that's much in line with a lot of projections, or at least within a couple games of what we were saying in July and August with this team in transition. So certainly something to look out for there. Mick, which player will learn so much improvement will lead to wins? In terms of an individual player, I guess I would go, if you're going to ask me, like just one player to drastically improve, to really help out, I'm going to go offense. And I probably would say, even though he's played pretty well, especially in pass pro, I probably would say one guy who can make a substantial jump that could lead to wins, I guess left tackle Rasheed Walker. Because to this point, he's been probably below average as a run blocker. But in terms of pass blocking, he's been competent, passable, certainly, maybe teetering on above average. But if he can really become the left tackle that they hope he can, then that, of course, should help both pass and run games. In terms of the wide receivers, I look at them like one unit almost. If one guy makes just leaps and bounds improvements, or even Luke Musgrave, figures out all of the routes, does everything right, perfect. Will it help? Yeah, but just one guy probably isn't going to fix the entirety of the passing offense at this point. So it'll help, sure. Love and Watson getting on the same page with a deep ball obviously would help a ton. But if I just got to pick one dude, I guess I'd have to go Rasheed Walker. But it's more of a collective that needs to click together. Anthony saying, have a wonderful Jay John. A pleasure to be here. Hope to join the night stream. Yeah, see Packers going 8 wins. Right on. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you for being here. Dan, why are we bringing RBs, DBs, etc. no L? Or are you talking in terms of like the signings that they just did, like with James Robinson? Oh, and then Anthony Johnson, the other corner that they signed to the practice squad? Basically because they've already got offensive linemen on their practice squad. Like, I mean, these were practice squad signings, right? And I even talked a little bit about how, like, I don't expect James Robinson to even get anything large in the immediate future. They've already got guys like Caleb Jones, who's on the 53, who doesn't see the field. On the practice squad, they've got a couple more O-linemen. Luke Tenuta is coming back from his injury, which could help fortify the line. Plus, I mean, I know the line looks bad week in and week out, and I'm not trying to make an excuse for him. But in terms of across the league, in pass pro, they're still a top 5 unit, which is baffling when we watch them. But it's the truth. Line play all across the NFL is bad this year. Like, we're seeing an increase in sacks across the NFL. We're seeing an increase in offensive line injuries across the NFL. So it's kind of like, if they're going to go get an offensive lineman, where are they going to go get it from that's going to be an improvement? And there certainly aren't many on the street that can come in and be an improvement either. So it's kind of like what do you really want them to do, I guess, is the question. But I very much understand what you're saying. It's just they're trying to fortify other spots. Jeff, good luck keeping the system going. If you're talking about the connection, hey, I think we're good so far. But if you're talking about the system of youth for the Packers, yeah, they gotta get clicking together. Plays in vain. Christian Watson improving is a game changer, in my humble opinion. Yeah, I think like that's totally fair. And when I was naming like one individual, specifically Love and Watson getting on the same page. We saw in training camp that the development of the chemistry between Love and Watson was slower than basically any other receiver. Much was written about Love and Dobbs all throughout training camp. Reed would make the occasional great play, but Watson, it was like few and far between that those two were truly on the same page. And now we're seeing it play out, especially considering that Watson basically missed the first 5 weeks of the season or month of the season. So those two getting on the same page will help a ton. I very much understand what you're saying, but I guess I look at that as both Love and Watson have to improve to really do that. Jeff saying, I'm becoming less of a Jaire Alexander fan. Too many injuries, too big a mouth, not enough plays. You know, especially with today's news, I kind of feel, not necessarily personally, but like I feel that sentiment growing from others. Like, as a lot of you know, a large part of my life is memorabilia sales. Like I do that kind of thing. And the that helps me get a gauge of the fandom and how they're feeling about certain guys, because you see the prices and in demand fluctuate and everything like that. And Jaire has not been in demand as of the last month as he used to be. So I get it. I think Rasul Douglas today, if you haven't seen the quote from Rasul, I thought it was incredibly interesting because Jaire the other day said, that the defense needs to carry the load while the offense is learning. And I think everyone got what he was really saying, right? But Rasul Douglas was asked today about that quote from Jaire. And I'm going to pull it up here. I just want to read it verbatim to you. Rasul said, has Jaire's adage of the defense needs to carry the load for the offense been the recurring theme for the defense this year? And here's exactly what Rasul said. No, because they're not young. And if they are, they got to grow up. It ain't no such thing as being young. You had what, 5 games? That's enough. I really don't care what they do on offense. I don't even get into it. We chase them to be the best defense. So for me, I focus just on that particular part and not the offense. And I know when they do their thing and how they do it will be fine. So a sharp comment there from Rasul, not creating drama or anything, but very much against what Jaire said. I think they're singing the same song in two different ways. And that is that the defense needs to stop worrying about the offense and just go be the best defense that it can be. So good timing on that, Jeff. I understand where you're coming from, and he has been beat certainly more than normal this year. His quarterback rating is astronomical compared to what it normally is when he's targeted. Whether that's related to the back injury, whether it's something else, don't know. But the Packers defense could use Jaire of old for sure. Plays in vain. Running back is a problem. Yeah, it has been. Hopefully Aaron Jones coming back fixes that. It's about all we can hope for at this point, really. I mean, sure, the run blocking can improve. They haven't done Dylan a ton of favors, but Aaron Jones is the machine to making the whole offense go. Like in the offseason, if you had to name one important Packer for the offense, probably was Aaron Jones. He's the guy who makes the wheels turn, and his loss has been huge for the sake of the offense. Mick, will shorter, quicker passes lead to a higher completion percentage for Love and longer offensive drives? I think so. I know not everyone necessarily believes that, but I think even Jordan Love does a little bit too, because when he was asked the other day at his locker, he said that he needs to focus more on getting the ball out quickly, getting the ball shorter to guys who are open rather than taking the deep shot. In preseason, we saw Love take the check down all the freaking time. Now we're in the regular season, and he's slinging it 40 yards downfield. The entire offense needs to, one, start using guys to their strengths. That's on Matt LaFleur. But 2, start playing more up-tempo, playing in rhythm, getting Love specifically into a rhythm. I believe to this point that Jordan Love is a rhythm quarterback. So these short, higher completion throws, the safe throws, the easy ones, I do think it will do a lot of good for Love. The problem to this point with that thinking is sometimes when they've scripted up those plays, it's gone horribly wrong For instance, Luke Musgrave running a wrong route on third down last week, or the week before, I'm sorry. Or pass pro, someone jumping the wrong way. We've seen that too. Or wide receivers just not getting separation on these quick routes. We've seen that a ton. So it all has to work in concert. So I agree that is one of the keys, absolutely. But they still have to execute on those plays too. Plays in vain. He's just become so fragile. Yeah. When he grabbed that hamstring in Chicago, he said it was just a bite. And everyone was like, oh, that's not so bad. Like, he should be back, week 2. Maybe he sits out 1 week, but week 3 for sure. And then it became this thing. And he did acknowledge that in their last game against Vegas, they were in their Saturday practice and he was going for a pass and he essentially overextended himself. He says, like, looking back, I shouldn't have done that. Yeah. But that's what led to a little setback for him. But still, even after a month to have those setbacks, I know hamstrings are complicated. I know they're fragile. Still concerning, still not great. So we just got to hope for the best as he continues to age. Dan Lemon, DBs are needed to support the run D. You ain't kidding, Dan. Rudy Ford has done some nice stuff in the run defense. All credit due to Rudy, who is quickly becoming one of my favorite defensive players. But if you're looking at the corners, Rasul every so often will get himself involved. Keyshawn Nixon tries to varied results at times. His missed tackle percentage is certainly higher than I would like to see it. But the one that's really concerning, and Jeff, maybe this goes to your point before, Jaire Alexander's done some really, really rough work in run defense to this point this year. Just on the whole, it's been rough. And I agree. The secondary has to step in to help out the run. Some guys are doing it certainly better than others. Jeff, I don't know that short passes are the cure-all. It will help a pathetic OL that can't block. I think a better cure is more a spread offense going fast pace. I really think simplifying is the key. Yeah. Yeah, it is, right? Simplifying along with execution, right? Of course, the theory is execution is easier with simplifying. But at the same time, if you do go too simple, which I think at times they've done, then the defense sees what's coming. I think that was even a part of the problem in the Vegas game. Vegas was very much tuned in to what Green Bay was going to try to do. Matt LaFleur has said that they're not rewriting the game plan week in and week out, that they're carrying over the majority of the game plan from week to week in an effort to get these young guys more consistent, learning the same stuff. The downside is what we're seeing is defenses are learning it and they're keying in on it. Jordan Love doesn't have as much control of the offensive line as his predecessor did. I'm not saying he's earned it, but it's a fact. Matt LaFleur was asked about it in his press conference today, saying that it's a natural progression. And as Love plays more, he'll get more opportunities to change more. He does have the full control, LaFleur said. But that didn't jive with the rest of what he said about Love like continuing to earn more. So the key to me is execute. Like, I know, of course, that's the key in football, like in general, right? But that's really it for this team. They're young, they're athletic, and they keep on doing wrong things, wrong routes. Like, you see it every game, a multitude of wrong routes, guys just making mental mistakes. And there's a part, like that's part of the expectation when you're this young. But the thing is, offenses that are good have like one guy that's young and screws it up, but 4 get it right out there. And then, but when the Packers, it's like 4 dudes get it wrong because they're all young. And it leads to a broken offense. Hey, Peter! Bonsoir from Bordeaux, France. Talking about Broncos. Would you rather trade for Jeudy or Sutton? As for me, none of them. If I had to pick one, I probably would pick Jeudy. He's a tactician as a route runner, and that is something the Green Bay Packers could very much use in their wide receiver room. But I'm in overall agreement with you that neither. I think the Denver Broncos are going to get way too much for either one of those wide receivers. I think the Broncos are probably asking way too much for either one of those wide receivers. The Green Bay Packers are in a position where they'd much rather their young wide receivers just grow together rather than go get some outside help. So I just don't see it happening. Jeff, Peter, no trades are happening. It's very rare as league and more rare for the Packers. Yeah, I have read some stuff from some NFL insiders saying that like this year may be more active than other years. And I would say over time, we have seen kind of an escalation in trade deadline trades in the NFL versus what it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago. But the last time the Packers made an in-season trade to acquire a player was in 2016, running back Niall Davis, who was traded for a 7th round pick. The likelihood of them doing anything this year is not high. If it is, like if they're going to bring somebody in, it's going to be someone who's got staying power, someone that they're bringing in that is a part of the future plan of the Green Bay Packers, so which will be costly. So I'm with you, Jeff. In all likelihood, nothing's coming. Dan, they need some guard depth. They have several tackles, but no guards. They want to put out there, except for Royce. There's got to be somebody. Yeah, I mean, that's the hope, right? But I agree. Tackle depth, they're actually really solid. They still have Caleb Jones out there. Tenuda's more of a tackle. But I actually wonder if the key to this whole guard depth thing, because I agree, like interior, they're empty. If Royce Newman is your top option, you don't have an option. So if the Packers are looking to solve that quandary, which they should be, I actually would question if a couple of those tackles can kick inside, like Luke Tenuda, who's at least toyed with guard before. Might we see him lining up at guard more when he returns from his injury? Caleb Jones, I would not put at guard ever. But the question is, maybe can Rasheed Walker and then Yash go out and play tackle? I mean, it's all a thought experiment, right? Because in practicality, the Packers probably aren't going to do it. But I think it's an important question to ask for the future stability of the offensive line. I get what you're saying. There's got to be somebody. I very much understand, because if Royce is your best bet, you're done for. And that's exactly what we've seen when Royce has come in. But at the same time, why is it that Sean Ryan can't get playing time over Royce? Like, is Sean Ryan that bad? Or is it just that, again, the Packers coaching staff is evaluating experience over potential, as we've seen them do on the offensive line a ton? I don't know. I'm in the let's play Sean Ryan camp. If another guard goes down, if you got to put in a backup guard, put in Sean Ryan. What's going to happen? It's going to get worse than what we've seen from Royce, like leading the league in pressures each week he plays. No, it's not going to get worse. So give it a shot. Peter saying, if Goodikins gets 2 first-rounders for Jaire Alexander before trade deadline, would you agree? Oh, Peter. I've seen some talk about that online, predominantly coming from Packer people. The one consideration that I don't know off the top of my head that I would have to look into is what is trading Jaire Alexander's contract do to the Packers cap situation? 2024, they're beginning to emerge to a nicer cap place. And then 2025 is beautiful from a cap perspective. I'm not sure that trading Jaire Alexander and incurring like another $40 million in dead cap and setting yourself back that way is worth the 2 first-rounders that they may get. That's very much a part of the equation that they'd be running. And I do know, given Jaire's contract, it's going to be a high number in the dead cap department. Regardless, though, I think the better path for the Packers is just hoping that Jaire Alexander returns to form. Just hoping that he becomes one of the best coverage corners in the league again. Because even for 2 first-round picks, you don't trade those away. Those guys are invaluable. Those guys have no price. So I think the Packers got to hope for that instead of anything else. Jeff saying, all I can say is don't hold your breath waiting for trade. I agree. LeCable's saying, sorry, I'm late. Crazy day, friends. I wonder if Meyers at guard is something that would help him think less. I wondered the same thing, right? But it's kind of a question of what do you do with the rest of the line then, right? So like you move Meyers to guard, which I don't have really a problem with at all. I think he could be successful there. I think he'd be a lot like John Runyon Jr. there, actually. But then which guard are you benching? I'm assuming Zach Tom is going to switch into center, and then you're getting Yash out there. So then you're asking the question, is Josh Meyers better at guard than John Runyon Jr. would be? Like, that's the immediate equation. In terms of his career longevity, I also don't wonder if Josh Meyers is better as a guard than as a center, because it does look at times like his instincts are just off. So put him at guard where he can just be more muscular, less thinking. Hey, it's worth a shot, right? Jeff, I'm all for getting Meyers out of center. He's definitely overwhelmed. Not sure he can play guard, though. Yeah, it's worth a question, right? And probably more of an offseason thing at this point, but I'd support finding out. The Cowboys proven players over draft pick gambles. I agree. Peter Meyers is going to get better as Halloween is coming. It's his season, right? God, if only his first name was Michael. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for hopping on. I'm glad today went so much better than yesterday did. But thank you, friends. Thanks for hopping on here. I will be back tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening, whenever YouTube actually gets it out, with the game preview for Packers versus Broncos. And then 3:25 Central on Sunday, me and Claudia will be here for a watch party for the entire duration of Packers versus Broncos. Thanks so much for being here today, everybody. Let's look forward to this weekend. It's good to get the Packers playing again after this goofy schedule of the last month. But thanks for being here. And as always, go Pack Go.